faceless, we were born for greatness. Somebody sound the alarm. A fire was set in the dark. It's time that you know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. It doesn't matter if the world is gone mad, if we just hold on, if we just hold on, yeah. The sky is falling and the world is gone mad, and we sing our songs and we just hold on, yeah. So if you're running, stop running. One life, one chance, start living. Sing it louder just to let the world know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. We're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. We're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. They say that I'm reckless, because I'm relentless. They spit on my face and crush on my name and taking my life in vengeance. Yeah, you could try and blame us and try and take what's sacred, but we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. Somebody sound the alarm. A fire was set in the dark. It's time that you know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. It doesn't matter if the world is gone mad, if we just hold on, if we just hold on, yeah. The sky is falling and the world is gone mad, and we sing our songs and we just hold on, yeah. So if you're running, stop running. One life, one chance, start living. Sing it louder just to let the world know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. We're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. Somebody sound the alarm. It's time that you know. It doesn't matter if the world is gone mad, if we just hold on, if we just hold on, yeah. Sing it louder just to let the world know. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. We were born for greatness. No, we're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness. Red alert, John, shine a light down. On the front lines of my mind now. smell what The Rock is cooking. The Rock says, The Rock says, The Rock says, The Rock. I hear voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me. You got your rules and your religion, all designed to keep you safe. But when rules start getting broken, you start questioning your faith. I have a voice that is my savior, hates to love and loves to hate. I have a voice that has the knowledge and the power to your fate. Legs are tied, hands are broken, alone I try, words unspoken, silent cry, my breath is frozen, blinded eyes, I feel myself, it's burning down, it's burning high, when ashes fall, the legends rise, we burn it out, come by oh why, when ashes fall, the legends rise, throat is dry, my vision's fading, I'm paralyzed, and left here waiting, taking time, just one step forward, don't lose my mind, I'm here to stay, it's burning down, it's burning high, when ashes fall, the legends rise, we burn it out, come by oh why, when ashes fall, the legends rise. Just stand there and bleed. Hello and welcome to the show with where you are.
Hello and welcome to the WWE Wrestling Talk Show with Reese Rock Jones
Sean Randy Smith.
and today we bring you our reactions to WWE Super Showdown 2019, which came at us this past Friday night from the King Abdullah International Stadium in Saudi Arabia.
And what an action-packed card we have got to get through.
That's one way of looking at it.
Yes, definitely.
This was the second pay-per-view or special event to come at us from the King Abdullah International Stadium, the third overall to be held in Saudi Arabia. And we have 10 matches to go through. 9 particular ones and 10, well, we'll get to it.
Yes.
So first of all, on the pre-show, the Revival would take on the Usos, which had become a little bit of a rivalry on Raw.
Yes. A bit of a rivalry isn't the word.
Personal may be the correct turn of phrase.
Correct.
This was, let's say, typical tag team action.
As you would normally expect with these kind of matches.
But in the end, it was the super kick and a super kick on Dawson and Wilder, followed up by a double super kick on Scott Dawson, which would lead to the Usos getting the victory. However, the Revival would get the last laugh when 3 days later, on Monday Night Raw, they managed to steal the Raw Tag Team Championships from the hands of the Usos in a triple threat tag team match,
making the Revival 2-time Raw Tag Team Champions.
Side note also, both members of the Revival and both Usos would compete in the Battle Royal later on in the night.
Yes, we will get onto that very shortly.
The main card opened up with Seth Rollins, who was battered and bruised after the assault from Brock Lesnar on Raw, defending the Universal Championship against the head waiter of TGI Fridays, Baron Corbin.
TGI Fridays is definitely the right place for Baron Corbin. I could have sworn I saw him not so long ago.
Anyway, throughout, one word dominated this match, and that was frustration.
Absolutely, in particular to one superstar.
Yes, because Baron Corbin basically thought he would have the title guaranteed to win because of Seth Rollins' injuries, and every time he would get a 2 count or a near 4, he would scream at the referee to do his job. Now, the referee in this match just so happened to be John Cone, also known as the father of former tag team champion Nicholas.
He'd get right in Baron Corbin's face.
Yes, so after Corbin got really frustrated and attempted to bring a chair into the ring, John Cone would intervene, leading to a shouting match between Corbin and Cone, which would eventually lead to a slight push by John Cone, in which Seth Rollins would roll up Baron Corbin to get the 3 count and retain the championship. Now, Baron Corbin, being frustrated even more after the match, would hit the end of days on Seth Rollins, leading to the music of Mr. Beast in the Bank, Brock Lesnar, hitting. And he would come strolling out with a chair, a referee, and of course Paul Heyman.
Yes, and we were all thinking, is he going to cash it in?
And this is where it gets a little bit interesting.
Yes.
As Heyman was getting into the ring and about to hand the contract to the referee, Heyman would trip on the ring rope which would cause Lesnar to be distracted, leaving Seth Rollins enough time to hit Lesnar with a low blow, grab the chair, and beat the living daylights out of Brock Lesnar, just like Lesnar did to him on Raw. And then to finish off, he would stomp Lesnar's head on the briefcase.
Or should we say, boombox?
Now, the plus side to this is that Lawrence managed to escape with the championship. The downside, well, there's two downsides. Lesnar still has the Money in the Bank briefcase, and after this, I imagine, is extremely pissed off.
Yes, very much so.
However, I do find it very bizarre that WWE would fly Brock Lesnar all the way to Saudi Arabia just to get his ass kicked.
I don't know. It's really weird why they would do that, but only time will tell about the decision.
The next match on the card was probably the match of the night.
Absolutely. As Andrade challenges the Demon Finn Balor for the Intercontinental title.
Now, considering that it was the Demon gimmick, I am actually surprised with how far and how long this match went.
I am as well.
But there were near falls left, right, and centre.
Yes.
But in the end of this match, Balor would hit the 1916 on Andrade off of the top rope.
Ouch.
Followed by the coup de grace, which would lead to a 3 count and Finn Balor retaining the Intercontinental Championship.
Which means Andre leaving Saudi Arabia empty-handed.
Let's remember that due to the rules of Saudi Arabia as well, Andrade was missing his X Factor in a lot of his matches, that being Selena Vega.
Yeah, because Saudi Arabia don't allow women to wrestle.
At least at the moment.
But this next match is definitely personal.
Yes. The best in the world, Shane McMahon. Don't make me vomit. Would take on the Roman Empire of Roman Reigns.
Now, bearing in mind, Shane McMahon has got a little bit of an unbeaten streak at the moment in Saudi Arabia.
And really he has, and all over the place. Now, we mentioned that Andrade was missing an X Factor. However, Shane McMahon had an X Factor.
He did.
That being in the Scottish psychopath Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
Now, in this match, Roman Reigns would at one point go for a Superman punch, only to be caught in a chop block in midair by Shane McMahon.
And I have to admit, that was a good counter.
Shane would apply a triangle choke, only for Reigns to lift him up and powerbomb him
to the canvas.
Shane would then steal Roman Reigns' spear to get a near fall.
Like he has been doing the past few weeks.
However, I want to make the ending here pretty obvious.
It pretty much was.
The end, Roman Reigns punched Shane McMahon, causing Shane to to go into the referee, whilst the referee was down, Roman Reigns would be hit with a Claymore by Drew McIntyre, allowing Shane to get the 3 count. So, let's get this straight. Shane McMahon did not defeat Roman Reigns. Drew McIntyre defeated Roman Reigns. And that would lead into a match at Stomping Grounds next Sunday, which will be our next show, by the way.
Yes, it will be.
Between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. Of course, a rematch from WrestleMania.
I'm going to see who wins it this time round.
At some point in the night as well, it was probably slightly later on, but I'll discuss it now. Backstage, Baron Corbin, still frustrated and furious, would cause some backstage politics and get a rematch with Seth Rollins at Stomping Grounds. However, as it was revealed this Monday on Raw, Baron Corbin will get to hand-pick the referee for this match.
So it's going to be very interesting to see who he actually picks as his special guest referee.
Also on Raw, during a match between Rollins and Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn was the outside referee trying to basically get into Baron Corbin's good books, only to get the ass beat out of him after he declared Kevin Owens the winner by disqualification.
After Seth Rollins put his hands on Sami Zayn.
But anyway, back to Super Showdown.
Yes.
Next we had what we thought was going to be a funeral when the Lucha House Party took on Lars Sullivan in a 3-on-1 handicap match.
But you'll be very surprised how this match turned out.
This match turned out, it was a short match as we kind of figured it would be, but it was a match in which Sullivan did dominate the match until all 3 members of the Lucha House Party came into the ring at once, causing a disqualification to be called by the referee. So Sullivan won by disqualification. The Lucha House Party would then hit 3 elbow type moves onto Lars Sullivan.
Yeah.
However, they did not get out of the ring fast enough because Sullivan did not stay down and, being pissed, would take out the Lucha House Party.
He would literally destroy the Lucha House Party
on the run. Now, there was a rematch on Raw, except it was elimination style, in which Sullivan did exactly what we thought he was going to do at Super Showdown.
Which was destroy the Lucha House Party, and he did do just that on Monday Night Raw.
Then we moved on to a match that was 16 years in the making. A rivalry which has spawned 16 years, multiple pay-per-views, multiple championship matches, a WrestleMania main event, 2 actually, and that was Triple H going 1-on-1 with Randy Orton.
Now, I must admit, this was probably one of my most hardest fought matches I've ever had in my career.
I will admit, I was slightly worried about this because neither man is as young as he used to be.
True.
But I did prefer this over Triple H's WrestleMania match with Batista.
Oh
Probably,
yeah, how that turned out.
probably because unlike Batista, Randy Orton is still a full-time active wrestler.
My Batista, a Hollywood actor.
Or do you mean drugs?
But anyway, back to the match, and this match was around 25 minutes.
Yes, we had Triple H targeting Randy Orton's shoulder because we know Orton's had a history of shoulder problems.
Correct.
There was an incident in which Randy Orton would slam Triple H onto the board that covers the announce table.
And then I would smash Triple H into the announce table with no board on the top, while Triple H would do the same.
Now, towards the end of the match, Triple H would go for a pedigree, only for it to be countered. A roll through would happen, and an RKO would be hit.
Yes, it would.
For a close 2 count. Randy Orton would go for a famous punt to the head.
But I missed.
What strikes me before I say what happened is WWE allows Seth Rollins to stomp people's faces into the mat, and yet they won't let Randy Orton use that punt.
It's weird. I know.
Yes.
It just seems to be the most weirdest thing to do.
Yes, but in any event, Randy Orton would go for the punt, only for Triple H to catch Orton's foot and then hit a pedigree for again another near fall. After this, Triple H would apply a crossface.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say that myself.
But Orton was able to escape the ring after getting to the ropes. Outside of the ring, just like I said, Randy Orton was dropped onto the announce table 4 times before Triple H rolled him back into the ring, and this is where the downfall would happen. Triple H would get a little bit overconfident here. He would get back into the ring, charge at Orton, only to be fall victim to a second RKO and the 3 count. So the winner of this match is Randy Orton.
It is indeed. It feels good to win.
Next, we moved on to Monster versus Weightlifter, if you want.
You can call it that, in as Braun Strowman
would take on Bobby Lashley.
Now, what do we expect from this match?
It was a little bit better, but not much than I was expecting. There was just Lashley performed a running power slam on Strowman for a near fall.
Yes.
Only for Strowman to hit a power slam of his own. And then in the end, after a bit of back and forth action, Strowman would hit 2 running power slams on Lashley for over 3 count.
Yes, and we do mean We do mean that lightly. 2.
So next we moved on to what could have been the main event of the match. Well, if it wasn't for a certain thing. Kofi Kingston defended the WWE Championship against Dolph Ziggler.
For the WWE title.
Now, interestingly enough, and I mentioned this last week,
Yes.
these two superstars have done battle over tag team and Intercontinental and United States Championships. In fact, both of Dolph Ziggler's first Intercontinental and United States Championships were won with victories over Kofi Kingston.
But how was this match with it being 10 minutes in length?
It was relatively good. These two, if they had more time, which they probably will in their next match, I'll mention that briefly in a second, could have done more, but basically we had a zigzag for a near fall towards the end.
Yeah.
We had an SOS for a near fall, but then this is what spelled the end for Dolph Ziggler. Spoiler alert.
Oh yes, definitely spoiler.
Dolph Ziggler would hit a super kick on Xavier Woods outside of the ring.
Yes.
But once back in the ring, Ziggler, Kingston would attempt a Trouble in Paradise, in which Ziggler would move out of the way. But with the referee's back turned, Xavier Woods would hit a kick onto Dolph Ziggler, in which Ziggler would turn around into a Trouble in Paradise, causing Kingston to pick up the 3 count and retain the WWE Championship. Now, a pissed off Dolph Ziggler said that if it wasn't for Xavier Woods, he would have won the match, and has said that he wants a rematch with Kofi Kingston inside a steel cage. That match has been made for Stomping Grounds.
We will get onto that in a little while.
Now, before we get to the main event, or so I say the main botch event.
Oh yes, of course.
It is time for what was advertised as the 50-man Battle Royal, but became a 51-man Battle Royal. Probably because they added like one more superstar. Now, initially we said we weren't sure how they were going to fit 50 men in the ring at once. However,
didn't seem to be that way.
However, they did manage to do it. Superstars like Cesaro, The Miz, and Samoa Joe and Elias got their own entrances. However, I will briefly mention something about another entrance, and that is Titus O'Neil.
Yes.
When Titus O'Neil made his entrance, the superstars in the ring and the commentators all made reference to Titus World Slide.
They told him, don't do it again.
It was basic, and Corey Gray specifically shouted, "Walk to the ring." But he essentially jogged down, and when it got to the bottom of the ramp, the entire stadium, or at least most of it, were like, "Yay!" because he managed to stay on his feet. Now, I am not going to get into what happened in this battle royal because it was basically a cluster of too many superstars to keep track of. However,
it came down to 2 superstars though.
but I'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
The superstars involved in this match were Akira Tozawa, Ali, Apollo Crews, Bo Dallas, V. Brian Kendrick, Buddy Murphy, Cedric Alexander, Cesaro, Chad Cable, Kurt Hawkins, Curtis Axel, Das Wilder, Drew Gulak, EC3, Eric Young, Eric from the War Raiders, Heath Slater, Humble Career, Ava from the War Raiders, Jay and Jimmy Uso, Jinder Mahal, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Matt Hardy, Mike Kanellis, Mojo Lowry, No Way Jose, Oni Rokan, Otis, Reza, Ricochet, Robert Roode, Rowan, Rusev, Sami Zayn, Samoa Joe, Scott Dawson, Sultan Benjamin, Kane Nakamura, Sin Cara, Sarase, The Miz, Titus O'Neil, Tony Nese, Tucker, Xavier Woods, who was just out with Kofi Kingston, and Zack Ryder. That is 49 superstars.
But who were the last two?
The last two were Elias and the eventual winner of the match, a hometown man, NXT superstar, and the only Saudi Arabia superstar in WWE, Mansoor.
Yes, Mansoor ended up shocking the whole entire Saudi Arabian universe in WWE terms and wins the match.
What they basically did here was exactly what they did last year in Australia when they gave Buddy Murphy the Cruiserweight Championship in Australia.
Correct.
Next we go to the main event botch.
And it was between the WWE legend, The Undertaker, against WCW's legend, Goldberg.
Now, you may have noticed the theme song to this pay-per-view was When Legends Rise. We should call it When Legends Botch.
And let us explain why.
So, the first minute and a half to 2 minutes of this match were absolutely fine. Undertaker hits Goldberg with a light. Goldberg hits Undertaker with a spear. A second spear. Gets a 2 count. Then Undertaker sits up. Then Goldberg does something I absolutely don't think I've ever seen him do before and takes Undertaker out on his feet. Then it gets a little bit of a downfall because Goldberg goes for a spear, and in a similar way to what happened at WrestleMania 33, Undertaker moves out of the way. Goldberg hits his head on the middle turnbuckle, only to bust himself open and concuss himself. So then Undertaker weakens the arm. It goes for old school and connects. Then we get the classic choke slam. Then this is where it gets a little iffy. Undertaker goes for the tombstone, and normally with the tombstone, Undertaker's knees hit the mat first and take the blunt of the impact. However, the Goldberg's head goes smack into the mat here.
So Undertaker nearly, and really repeat, nearly got paralysed.
Wait, that's Goldberg. If he wasn't concussed, definitely could have been. and quite easily have broken his neck as well, because remember, it was a pile driver and been dropped on his neck, which broke Austin's neck at SummerSlam 1997, I believe it was.
1997 or 1996, one of the two.
Then, after Goldberg kicks out of the tombstone, we get another spear from Goldberg, and Goldberg in a weakened state, blood coming out of his head, decides to go for a jackhammer.
Oh no!
Now,
He's
Goldberg has barely lifted Undertaker in the air when he drops the Undertaker practically on his head.
Ouch!
Undertaker, how would you like to be paralyzed in Saudi Arabia? Because that will go down so well.
Clearly well said there.
And that goes to a 3 count. But then another box after that, which was supposed to be how the match was going to end, was Goldberg tried to hit Undertaker with a tombstone. Supposedly Undertaker was supposed to counter it into another tombstone and get the 3 count. However, Goldberg drops the Undertaker and they both collapse. Undertaker then hits a poorly executed chokeslam with barely any lifts and gets a 3 count.
So,
bots, basically.
Yep, and it left a lot of people in Saudi Arabia pretty angry, including the Phenom himself.
Yes, and there was a reported fight backstage. Goldberg would later take to Twitter. So, that does it for WWE Super Showdown 2019. It was,
from Saudi Arabia.
Apart from the main event, each match was relatively good.
Relatively being the word.
Join us next week where we get back to US-based pay-per-views in WWE's Stomping Ground.
Which is a brand new pay-per-view.
Until then, he's been
Sean Randy Smith, and he's been
Lisa Rock Jones. Join us next week.
Bye-bye.